So the other day, Sean Hannity came out and argued for World War III. He was like, hey, there's a Russian convoy. Let's just bomb the convoy. Let's just bomb all of their tanks and all of their vehicles and try to destroy their armament. And yeah, let's do that. He was so nonchalant about it. He was so casual about it. Everybody was making fun of him for it. Well, now he heard the criticism. He goes out and he doubles down and he proves even further. I mean, this guy, I've heard some stories about how he really views himself as like an actor or whatever, but it's hard for me to not conclude he's also just a stunningly inept moron. I'm trying to be nice. Stunningly inept moron. That's as nice as I can say it. So let's listen and then we'll come back and I'll respond.
But they're valiantly trying to fight back. And thank goodness they have some of the Javelin missiles they need. They don't have enough. Supposedly they're going to get shipments of Stinger missiles. That will be helpful as well. What I don't understand is we've had this convoy, which has really been a focus of concern of mine. And it's a 40-mile-long convoy of Russian troops and tanks and munitions and fuel. And it's just been stuck. You can Google it on Google Maps, for crying out loud, and you know exactly where it is. They're about 18 miles away from the capital of Ukraine, Kyiv. And what I've been scratching my little head wondering, okay, if they get to Kyiv with all that military might, my prediction is, and you don't have to be a genius to figure this out, is this is going to be a massacre. We can prevent a massacre, and I'll tell you how to do it. Not that hard. We know exactly where it is. Why aren't they taking out that convoy? Not saying America. Now, there are other countries that could join in privately, secretly. There's something in the, the intelligence world called covert operations with something known as plausible deniability. In other words, you do it, you don't leave your fingerprints, and you deny you did it, even though you did it. That's lying, Hannity. You're telling us countries lie all the time. I'm saying in the face of evil, to stop what will be, if that convoy, as large as it is, makes it to Kyiv, it will be a humanitarian disaster. It will be a massacre. It will go down in history as the massacre. Now that the convoy is stalled and it's sitting there, they're like sitting ducks. And we're not taking out the convoy. I'm not saying we, the United States. Why isn't Europe stepping up and taking out the convoy? They don't have to take credit for it. They can even deny it. But it's an easy military mission from what I can see. And I've talked to commanders. I said, would that be a hard mission? No. With the right, you can do it with drone strikes. You can do it with it's rather simple, actually, they're telling me, because they're stationary in one spot and they're out in the open. Now, that's an opportunity to prevent them from getting to Kyiv and killing more innocent men, women, and children. Why they're not doing it, I don't know.
He literally hasn't thought about the consequences of that. He hasn't thought about the backlash and the retaliation and what that leads to, the snowball effect that leads to. I mean, guys, stop in World War I. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated, and everybody blinked, and a month later, like, the entire world was at war. We're now talking about directly attacking, whether it's a different European country or NATO or the U.S., directly attacking a Russian convoy, killing a whole bunch of Russian soldiers, basically. And Sean Hannity hasn't thought for a second about what happens after that. What happens after that? What does Russia do? What do they do? And by the way, I love Trump's idea was like, just blame it on China. They're making like 400 different economic deals with China right now. They know 100% is not China. Any idiot would, like, these guys have gnat IQs. But, Sean, the least bad scenario, if we did exactly what he just called for right there, is what? Well, whichever country had the air bases that the planes or drones took off from, well, they get attacked next by Russia. Now, maybe that's a NATO country. Maybe then that then draws in NATO to defend that country. Well, then you have a hot war between NATO and Russia, and that is World War III. You know, that's like the least bad scenario if we were to do that or Europe were to do that. The U.S., we could experience like ridiculous cyber attacks from Russia that just handicap us, destroy our internet for weeks, destroy our infrastructure. You know, there's things that they could do where our infrastructure just doesn't work anymore. What if like every traffic light in the country stops working, for example? What if our ports get clogged? What if there's so many things they could do? What if they immediately cut off all the oil and gas to Europe after we do that, and there hasn't been enough time to work out a deal with whoever, Venezuela, Iran, Saudi Arabia, to make up the difference, and then that grinds the entire European economy to a halt. They can't even, fuel their own fighter jets in a hot war with Russia because they cut off the oil. I mean, 60% of Germany's oil and gas comes from Russia. Like, he just hasn't thought about what happens after we do an act of World War III. Well, by definition, we are then in World War III. Now, this isn't in any way, shape, or form to defend what Russia's doing. I mean, Putin's invasion of Ukraine was absolutely an aggressive invasion. It went into a sovereign country. It's imperialism. I think it's not just NATO, which is why Putin is doing what he's doing. I also think he wants the natural gas that's in Ukraine. It's in eastern Ukraine. It's in western Ukraine. It's in Crimea. That's probably why he took Crimea in 2014. They found massive natural gas deposits there in 2012. In 2014, he goes and he takes it. So this is not defending what Putin is doing. I'm totally against what Putin is doing. But you can't just go, nah, why don't we just bomb him then? Why doesn't Europe just bomb him? The convoy's just sitting there. We could do it. He acts like there would be no response at all. There's no backlash. There's no retaliation. There's no tit for tat. There's no raising the stakes. And even a tit for tat response that is an attempt not to escalate but just to respond is going to be viewed as an escalation by the West. Like, the West bombs Russian soldiers, and then it would be nothing to do with cyber attack in response to that, right? You killed our people. All we did was take out your computers. These guys, they're so stupid. I told you, Fox News pivoted hard from Putin's a strong man and he's a strong leader and all these things, and it's all defensive. It's all about NATO. Now they pivoted to he's literally Hitler, and we can and should do absolutely anything to stop him. And even if that means World War III, well, what are you going to do? It's just World War III. He's so stupid. It's amazing how dumb Sean Hannity is. Look, I believe to an extent the actor thing, but you didn't say a word about second-order consequences, third-order consequences, things that could happen in response to that in your entire rant. You talked about it for over 2 minutes. He didn't say anything about, what could happen next. And by the way, final point here, but imagine Donald Trump as president watching now Fox News' wall-to-wall hawkishness, wall-to-wall neoconservatism and counter-imperialism, and they're just thirsty for World War III. And if Trump was watching that day in and day out, Lord only knows what he would do if he was president. I mean, he would have gone too far already. I'm sure of it. He already talked about, what's happening is a Holocaust. How long are we going to sit there and watch Putin do this in Ukraine? So in other words, he's flat out acting like we got to do something militarily. We have to do it. We have to do it now. Probably because he's listening to this. And by the way, it was after Hannity first called for attacking that convoy that Trump came out and said, we should attack that convoy and pretend it was China. Put Chinese flags on our planes or whatever and do it. So this is who he's getting policy advice from. This guy, the least thoughtful person on the planet. So, I mean, thank God. I mean, it's not that Biden's handling this well. I think some of the sanctions have gone too far and gone after innocent people in Russia, and they do not deserve that at all. But if it was Trump, I think we'd be in a way worse situation right now. I really do. Because he's been fed a steady diet of this now. And they're just incapable of thinking about it in like it's chess. You gotta think a bunch of moves ahead. He's just I don't know, they're bad. Bomb them. Just bomb them. Why don't we do that? We could just take them out and solve the problem now. He says so many people are going to die if we don't do it. Way more people will die If we do it, there's going to be more death, more bloodshed, because it leads to retaliation and then another retaliation. And like I said, that's world war. So, man, U.S. political media and culture is totally broken, and the conversations we're having right now are downright insane. I can't believe I have to come out here and say basic things like starting World War III is bad. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.